I'd now like to introduce George. George is at Accenture. He's been there for 3.5 years. He did economics and management at St Andrews, and he's going to tell us all about a slightly different take on things. George.
Sure. Thank you, James, and thanks definitely also to Bright for putting on this event today. So this is pretty impressive stuff, and I'm pleased to be here. So I can definitely talk also, at length about strategy consultancy. So one thing that I'd also like to mention is just that actually I've come under here under slightly false pretenses. So Accenture is, a huge company. In fact, it is. Yeah, sure. So Accenture is actually the biggest management consultancy company in the world. So it's around 170,000 people is what I've just looked up. So it's absolutely huge, 170,000 people globally in pretty much every single country you can imagine around the world. So it's a huge, huge company. But with that is a fantastic opportunity to get involved in anything under the sun. So you can imagine that there is something there for you, your project, your industry, your functional expertise. So it's a very, very different kind of company. However, I actually sit within the strategy division of that company, so it's very, very small and niche. Typically about 3% of candidates who apply to Accenture and get in fall into the strategy category. So it really is very, very small. Out of the 170,000 people, it's actually only a company of, I think it's about 1,200 strategy consultants around the world. So in fact, Accenture is huge, but actually strategy consulting within Accenture is actually very, very small, and probably smaller than these companies here as well. So what I'd like to talk about today is probably just three quick topics, and I'll try and be as quick as I can. So firstly is just a bit about Accenture, and I've covered off, I think, the basics. Secondly, just a bit about me. And thirdly, I think just some of the key things that I wish I would have known when I was kind of graduate. So firstly, Accenture. So as I said, biggest management consultancy company in the world. With that comes a huge breadth and depth of opportunity that you just cannot imagine. And the best thing is that when I'm stuck out in the middle of the Middle East or the Caribbean or the west coast of America or wherever it is, and I'm just stuck helping a CEO with something that keeps him up at night, I will have somebody at the end of the telephone or be able to kind of speak to a colleague in another office who has that expertise and who knows and who has done that before, and that's fantastic. Another thing as well is that I've been at Accenture for 3.5 years, and I'm always confident there's something new and challenging out there that I can go on to do, whether it's in a new geography or whether it's in a different industry or whether it's not necessarily within strategy but whether it's operational strategy or whether it's in something completely different. So that's Accenture. I'm sure that's Accenture. I'm sure I'll come up with something, a few more details about Accenture soon. But I can talk about me, and that's easy. I'm going to give you a tiny bit of background about me as well. So I'm a St Andrews graduate. I graduated in 2006. So I've been at Accenture for about 3.5 years now. And have loved it, absolutely loved it. Strategy consulting, as Gemma was saying, for me is an industry that's quite poorly understood, and I think something I'll also try to talk about more broadly is management consultancy and also the other parts of Accenture, because Accenture is so huge. I absolutely love it. It's a fantastic opportunity to get your hands stuck into something. Straight from the bat, you can be working with some of the top blue chip companies around the world on some of the most intractable questions and problems that they have at the most senior levels. So hands down for me, it is the most interesting thing you can do as an intelligent, high-performing graduate freshly out of university. So I also did some internships before I graduated in 2006. So and I was speaking to a couple of people in the audience today about that, and I think that is hugely beneficial. If you get an opportunity, I know there are a few of you who are not finalists and are not penultimate year students either. If you have an opportunity this summer or in the subsequent summers before you graduate to do an internship, Accenture does many internships, and there are lots of options that you can pick from. I think they're all on the website. And for me, that was a huge eye-opener. So not only is it gold dust on your CV, but actually, fundamentally, it's something that you can learn from, and actually you can get a feel for whether or not consulting is something that interests you. So definitely get some experience and get out there. Make sure that you're not green turning up to an interview or turning up to your job on the first day. So definitely go for an internship and get that hands-on experience. It really provides you with, I think, the edge against other candidates as well. So Graduated, started. It's worth noting that actually from my internship, I actually had a scholarship throughout university, so had a lot of my debt paid off, which was fantastic. Had a huge signing bonus. I think it was about £10,000 starting off salary, which was huge, and that was on top of my starting salary. So it was a fantastic way to start just fresh as a graduate. Did 2 weeks of training, which actually got cut short to about 1.5 weeks, and I had a phone call from one of my old partners from the last internship I was working on, and she was out in the Netherlands, and she said, "George, you've done this training before, get out here, get on the next plane." So I jumped off to the Netherlands and did some work there for about 2 months, and that was working with a huge oil and gas company out there, working with some of their processes and trying to understand how they could improve their procurement process globally. So that was very interesting and challenging at the same time as a kind of a project to do straight off the bat. Then from that I got pulled into a project in Norway and was part of a kind of a 4 or 5 person team out there working with a company's entry strategy into West Africa. They wanted to know how do they move into West Africa, so we helped them with that challenge. And I was there for about 2 or 3 months. Then I came back to the UK and actually did an internal project and helped Accenture become a better company, and we kind of worked actually with one of the board members of Accenture and kind of worked on one of the top strategy issues that he was tackling at the time. And that was a huge eye-opener in terms of how do you operate a consulting company. Then finished that, I actually got pulled back into Norway for about 6 weeks to do a follow-on piece of work, which was quite interesting as well, and that was based kind of travelling around internally, domestically within Norway. Then I finished that and kind of came back to the UK and did a project out in the west of England. It was nice to be in the UK for a while, for once, and did some work there. And that was actually quite a long project. So as Gemma was saying, I think, Accenture also, because it's actually, it has this management consultancy focus as well, you can find yourself on longer projects. And, because I sit within strategy and within management consultancy, projects definitely tend to be shorter. But, if you are within the technology portion of our business and obviously within the outsourcing part of the business, obviously your project length could run into months, if not years. So that is also a difference to be aware of. So that project was actually for about a 9-month stint, and we were kind of helping drive change throughout this organisation. It was kind of this huge transformational change. Finished that, and then did some more work travelling around Europe for a financial services client. Then did some work with a telecoms client, which was interesting, and that was just a very short piece of work. And then got pulled into work down in South Africa and did some work with South Africa's biggest company, and we were looking at kind of reorganising their company of 33,000 people, and I was kind of in charge of their Excel sheet of 33,000 lines of job descriptions to try to work out how we could best reorganise that company. A hugely important piece of work, working for the board and ultimately the CEO, and really, hugely impactful in terms of being the biggest company, obviously, in South Africa, and kind of helping that company kind of emerge from strength to strength. Then finished that piece of work and went out to the Caribbean and did kind of a piece of work there for 3 months, working with the CEO of a company there based in Trinidad and Tobago. Did a triathlon in Tobago. It's a semi-triathlon. I could not even imagine doing a full one. I think that would kill me. So did that. And then we did also some work for the Prime Minister and the Energy Minister in Trinidad and Tobago. So we were actually advising him in terms of his 5-10-year plan for how he should change his whole country. So that was a hugely impactful piece of work as well. And after that, I've literally just finished last week a piece of work in Portugal where we were working for a startup company, again, hugely different, and had its own challenges for being a very small company, and that was a hugely eye-opening as well. So, a huge whirlwind of projects there. One thing to make very, very clear here as well is that because I sit within strategy, and not only that, because I've been very lucky in having these huge opportunities and the doors open in terms of the various projects I've been involved in, my experience, I think, is slightly different and slightly, unique in that respect. So the other things to be aware of within Accenture, and I think I can talk a tiny bit about this, is Accenture is broadly split up into three areas. You have the outsourcing, which is where we'll take on a HR function or a finance function of a business, and we'll help them run that process at lower cost. That's a huge part of our business. It's hugely helpful for our clients, and it's something that is a trend that is kind of taking off more and more. The other part of our business, which is huge, is technology. Technology is something, if you trace Accenture's roots back 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we were originally an accountancy, then we were kind of this kind of technology kind of company, and now we have this, prior to that we were kind of more purely management consultancy, and then within the 2000s and the dot-com boom, we got heavily involved with technology. Technology is a huge part about the way in which we work nowadays, and it's often a huge part of the solutions that we give to our clients. So in terms of when I'm working on a strategy project, you betcha there's often a technology component there. It's often because, we're helping them with their website, or we're helping them with their viral marketing strategy, or something like that. So technology is pretty huge, and that's the second part of our business. The third part is the traditional management consultancy, and that's where clients come to us with their challenges in terms of what they should be doing. We can be working with the chairman, the CEO, the board, VPs, down to general management. And something that I think Accenture prides itself on is that we really help our clients through transformative change, and we'll actually help them deliver that change to ultimately realize the value. There's a lot of buzzwords there. What that fundamentally means is that we don't produce just a beautiful PowerPoint or just a beautiful glossy document that sits on a shelf collecting dust. We'll actually then help the clients make that change happen and actually realize that market opportunity if they're opening a new shop in China, or if it's cost cutting and having to realize helping a British government department on reducing costs. And we'll really help our clients through that and walk them through that process. So that's why often we might do a strategy project up front, but then we'll help them actually make that change throughout the next few months and maybe even years into long-term projects. So that's a bit about Accenture and a bit about me. Finally, and I'll try to be quick, things that I wish I had known when I was in your shoes and I was kind of just looking to graduate. So I was a bit of a cheat in this respect, and as I say, the internships, and I did a couple of them before I started with Accenture. That really just helped me. Fundamentally helped me realize that actually it was Accenture that I was really keen on. It was strategy that I was really interested in, and more broadly, the consulting thing was something that I was just really, really interested in. So I think that fundamentally for me was really something that helped me enormously. I think fundamentally as well, if you can broaden your horizons and broaden your perspective in any way possible, and whether that's kind of getting involved in an internship or whether it's travel, I would recommend that you do that. Now, I recognize obviously that times are difficult right now, but if you can go off and do a sailing trip, if you can go off and take a gap year, that will be hugely, hugely important for you, and now's the time to do it, and it will really put you, I think, in good stead as you kind of pitch up to your interviews with a calmer and more mature approach to taking those interviews. So I would definitely recommend that. I have done a couple of things in my life which really have been life-changing. One was doing a year abroad. I went to the Wharton Business School in the US as part of my third year, and had a phenomenal experience out there, and just basically blew my mind away with the kind of people I was working with, and that was fundamentally life-changing for me. I think also I took a gap year and travelled around the world and taught some kids in the US, and also did part of my internship was with Accenture as well. And that again really broadened my horizons and opened my eyes up to new opportunities. So whatever you can do, I think that'll really, really help. And I think don't lose heart also. If you are just graduated, or you're looking to graduate and you're a tiny bit nervous about what you may or may not do, and your parents are kind of breathing down your neck, I wouldn't worry too much about that. People recognise that, and now's the opportunity to really just broaden your horizons and make the most of it. So I look forward to taking any questions later. Hope that helps, and I'll pass you on.